What if worshipping your god, wearing a turban, or celebrating a festival could get you arrested? For millions of Indians living abroad, this isn't fiction, it's reality. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're uncovering the shocking truth about 15 countries where Indians are not allowed to freely follow their religion in 2024. Freedom of religion is a basic human right, but in many parts of the world, Indians face harsh restrictions, legal bans, and even violence just for practicing their faith. Whether Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, or Christian, religious freedom isn't guaranteed. From strict Islamic regimes to authoritarian states, we've ranked the 15 worst countries where Indians struggle to worship openly. Watch till the end, the number 1 country will surprise you. 15. Turkey. Turkey, once known for secularism, is increasingly moving towards Islamic conservatism. While some religious tolerance exists, non-Muslim groups, especially Hindus and Sikhs from India, find it difficult to practice freely. Public religious gatherings outside of Islam are often viewed suspiciously. The government restricts construction of non-Muslim places of worship, and Hindu festivals are rarely allowed. Religious symbols like turbans and bindis can attract unwanted attention. Though private worship is tolerated, there's a climate of fear and discrimination. Indian origin communities often have to worship quietly and avoid public displays of their faith to prevent social or legal consequences. 14. Myanmar. Indians in Myanmar, especially Muslims and Hindus, face discrimination and hostility. The Buddhist-majority country has experienced waves of religious violence, including temple attacks and restrictions on religious practices. Indian origin communities are often not recognized as full citizens, especially Rohingya Muslims, who face extreme persecution. Hindu communities have also reported attacks during communal unrest. Practicing religion in public can be dangerous in volatile areas. Due to nationalistic and xenophobic sentiments, Indians practicing minority faiths are often seen as outsiders. Freedom of religion is weak, and Indian religious groups must operate discreetly or face legal and social threats. 13. Russia. In Russia, religious freedom is technically protected, but in reality, the government heavily monitors and controls religious activity. Hindu organizations like ISKCON have been banned in some areas, and other Indian religious practices are classified as cults by certain government agencies. Indian Christians, Muslims, and Sikhs also face challenges in building places of worship. Public religious events outside of Russian Orthodoxy are often discouraged or denied permits. Preaching, distributing religious literature, or even group prayer without government approval can be penalized. Many Indian expatriates and students prefer to keep their religious practices private to avoid suspicion and surveillance. 12. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has a history of religious tension, especially between the Buddhist majority and religious minorities. Indian origin Hindus and Muslims, particularly in the north and east, face periodic violence, temple desecration, and societal discrimination. While religious freedom is guaranteed by law, in practice, minority religions are often marginalized. Hindu temples and mosques have been attacked in times of political unrest. Authorities sometimes delay or deny approval for religious events or structures. Indian origin Tamils, many of whom are Hindus, also face systemic bias. Worship is still possible, but Indian religious communities often practice under the threat of hostility or exclusion. 11. Bhutan. Bhutan officially promotes Buddhism as the national identity and restricts the religious freedom of minorities, especially Hindus. Most Indian origin people in Bhutan are Nepali-speaking Lhotshampas, many of whom follow Hinduism. These communities face systemic discrimination, and the government tightly controls non-Buddhist religious expression. Building new temples is difficult, religious festivals are limited, and open worship outside designated areas is discouraged. Indian workers and migrants often cannot celebrate traditional Hindu festivals like Diwali or Holi openly. While private worship is generally tolerated, Indian religious minorities feel the pressure to conform and stay silent about their beliefs in public life. 10. France. France's strict secular policies limit visible religious expression in public spaces. Indian Sikhs face bans on turbans in schools and ID photos. Muslim women are barred from wearing hijabs in many government roles. Public religious processions or festivals are discouraged, even for Hindus or Christians. Though freedom of religion is constitutionally protected, France's model of laïcité often leads to marginalization of religious minorities. Indian origin communities find it difficult to teach religion in schools or open new temples or gurdwaras. While private worship is allowed, the legal system and social climate push Indians to keep their faith behind closed doors. 9. China. China has one of the most restrictive environments for religious practice. All religious activities must be approved by the government, and Indian religious groups like ISKCON, Sikhism, and Hindu temples are not officially recognized. Religious books, idols, and ceremonies are restricted or banned. Surveillance of places of worship is widespread, and gatherings without approval are deemed illegal. Even Muslims from India are monitored closely. Indian expatriates cannot celebrate religious festivals openly, and prayer gatherings are rare. Any religious display can attract attention from the authorities. Worship is mostly limited to private spaces and online activities are heavily censored. 8. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia permits only Islamic religious practices, based on its strict interpretation of Sunni Islam. Indian non-Muslims including Hindus, Sikhs, and Christians cannot publicly display their religion. Temples and gurdwaras are banned, religious symbols are not allowed, and celebrating festivals like Diwali or Christmas can lead to arrest or deportation. Even Muslim Indians who are not Sunni face discrimination. Possession of idols, religious books, or symbols may be considered illegal. Worship must be done in private homes, and even then, quietly. Public expression of any non-Islamic faith is strictly prohibited, making Saudi Arabia extremely challenging for religious Indians. 7. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, under Taliban control, is one of the least safe places for religious minorities. Hindu and Sikh communities have nearly disappeared, and the remaining few live in fear. Indian Muslims are also at risk if they do not follow the Taliban's strict religious guidelines. Non-Muslim places of worship have been destroyed, and celebrating any religious festival outside of Islam is dangerous. Public religious symbols, ceremonies, or attire are banned for non-Muslims. Indians living in Afghanistan are either forced to leave or practice their religion secretly. Religious freedom is virtually non-existent, and persecution is both government-driven and societal. 6. Maldives. The Maldives is a 100% Sunni Islamic nation where practicing any religion other than Islam is forbidden. Indian Hindus, Sikhs, and Christians are not allowed to build temples or churches. Importing religious books, idols, or symbols is banned. Even private worship is risky, and individuals have been arrested for possessing religious items. Public festivals like Diwali or Christmas are not permitted. Indian expatriates must hide their faith and practice it secretly indoors. Apostasy is punishable by law, and speaking about one's faith outside Islam can result in deportation or jail. Religious freedom for Indians is nearly zero in the Maldives. 5. Pakistan. India's neighbor Pakistan is home to a shrinking population of Hindus, Sikhs, and Christians, many of whom are of Indian descent. These communities face forced conversions, blasphemy accusations, temple vandalism, and violence. Religious minorities are treated as second-class citizens, with limited access to education, employment, and justice. Indian visitors often cannot worship safely, and visas for religious pilgrims are tightly controlled. Public religious expression can provoke backlash. Hindu girls are frequently abducted and forcibly converted. Even Indian Muslims who are Shia or Ahmadi face state persecution. Religious intolerance makes practicing any Indian faith a serious risk in Pakistan. 4. Iran. Iran's religious system is built around 12er Sharia Islam. Non-Muslims face discrimination and tight government control. Indian Hindus, Sikhs, and Christians are unable to build temples or churches and must worship in secrecy. Possession of idols or unapproved religious texts can result in arrest. Sunni Muslims, including many Indian Muslims, are also marginalized. Religious gatherings must be state-approved, and conversion from Islam is a crime. Even discussing one's religion in public can lead to investigation. For Indian communities, religious practice is limited to the private sphere, and public celebrations or visible faith expression is dangerous or banned. 3. North Korea. North Korea completely bans all religious activities except the state-run cult of personality around its leaders. No temples, churches, or gurdwaras exist. Indian workers or diplomats must keep all religious beliefs hidden. Possession of any religious material can lead to imprisonment, torture, or execution. Worship, prayer, or even discussing religion is seen as a threat to the regime. Foreigners are monitored constantly, and religious behavior is classified as espionage or rebellion. For Indians, this is one of the most repressive environments in the world. Practicing any religion, openly or privately, is virtually impossible in North Korea. 2. Somalia. Somalia is a war-torn country with strong Islamic extremism and virtually no protection for religious minorities. Indian Hindus and Christians cannot gather to worship, display religious symbols, or celebrate festivals. Al-Shabaab and other militant groups target anyone perceived as non-Muslim. Even Muslim Indians who are not aligned with the dominant ideology may face persecution. Places of worship are non-existent, and possession of religious books or items can attract violence. Indian workers or travelers often conceal their faith for safety. Somalia's lack of law enforcement and extreme hostility toward other religions make religious freedom non-existent for Indians. 1. Yemen. Due to years of civil war, extremist control, and political chaos, Yemen is currently the worst place for Indian religious minorities. Non-Muslims cannot worship, gather, or express their religion at all. There are no Hindu temples, Sikh gurdwaras, or churches. Indian expatriates risk imprisonment or attack if caught practicing their faith. The dominant religious environment is hostile toward any outside belief system. Even Indian Muslims who do not conform to local ideologies face suspicion. Public worship is impossible, and private prayer is risky. For Indians, Yemen is a country where freedom of religion simply does not exist.